Let's dive into every NFL team's offseason performance.
Get rid of Joe Mixon and bring Zach Moss in cheaper. That's what that is. So I didn't mind their free agency, but it was nothing that would wow me, so I gave him a C+.
The offseason is low-key where NFL teams' fortunes are made. So let's take a look back at this offseason and check out our official grades for all 32 NFL teams. Arizona Cardinals, B-. With Kyler Murray now firmly slotted in as QB1 in the desert, it was surprising to see some of the moves that they made this offseason, as the biggest losses for Arizona this year come on the offensive side of the ball. Though, to their credit, they have done well to rearm. The most shocking departure was former Pro Bowl offensive lineman DJ Humphries, who had been battling nagging injuries in recent years and found himself as a cap casualty. Arizona also lost its top wide receiver Marquise Brown to the defending champs, but they did take Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top of the draft, so hey, people believe him to be a generational talent at the position, so maybe he'll be able to make up a little bit of that lost performance. Atlanta Falcons, B+. Everyone has been quick to clown on the Falcons because of their decision to take Michael Penix Jr. in the draft shortly after acquiring Kirk Cousins in free agency. But it's hard to give them anything less than a B+ for all the other moves that they've made across the board. The aforementioned Cousins will be a much-needed improvement under center, and a move that should pay major dividends. They also took on some high-ceiling reclamation projects at wide receiver to pair with Drake London in Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore. If Atlanta can get one of those guys to maximize their potential, then hey, they'll be in business. And if they make a couple of playoff runs with Kirk, then Penix is slotted in like Jordan Love in Green Bay. And for once, it would be the Falcons who are laughing. Baltimore Ravens, B. Baltimore had some tough departures on the defensive side of the ball, losing linebacker Patrick Queen and pass-rushing mercenary Jadeveon Clowney. But I love the moves that they made to stabilize that offense. They shipped right tackle Morgan Moses out of town for some extra draft capital. And they got even younger in the trenches, taking talented offensive tackle Roger Rosengarten out of Washington in the second round. The Ravens also took an exciting, calculated swing on King Henry, hoping to pair him with Lamar Jackson in the backfield to really ignite the twilight of his career. Buffalo Bills, C. The 2024 offseason was a tough one for the folks in Western New York. The offense could look very different next year because not only did they say goodbye to their top wide receiver and Josh Allen's favorite target, Stephon Diggs, but they also parted ways with Gabe Davis, their biggest play threat. I'm not super confident that the likes of Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Mac Hollins, who they acquired via free agency, and Keon Coleman via the draft, are really going to be able to fill that void. It should be interesting to see how Allen looks without Diggs in the mix. People forget that he was a completely different QB before he had a legitimate #1 wide receiver to throw to. Carolina Panthers, C-. No shocker here, but the Panthers have continued their almost impressive demonstration of incompetence during the David Tepper era with an ugly offseason. Their big acquisition was the notoriously conditionally motivated Jadeveon Clowney, who, I'm sure won't be demotivated by all that losing. Chicago Bears, A. Against all odds, the Chicago Bears are starting to look like one of the most competently run organizations out there. Not only did they capitalize on their 2023 fleecing of the Panthers by selecting quarterback Caleb Williams first overall in the draft, but they actually committed to putting the right pieces around him. Now, in addition to DJ Moore as his top target and Cole Kmet as a security blanket, Williams will have another borderline wide receiver 1 in Keenan Allen and rookie Roma Odunze, who many are projecting to be a stud in the NFL. Cincinnati Bengals, C+. It wasn't a bad offseason for the Bengals, but it wasn't a particularly good one either. They lost a couple of steady contributors in Joe Mixon at running back and wide receiver Tyler Boyd, but they had a major win in re-signing T. Higgins. And I love the acquisition of defensive tackle Trent Brown, as that was a particularly sneaky good move. That said, the loss of DJ Reader is certainly going to hurt. Cleveland Browns, B. The Browns weren't super busy this offseason, but I don't hate the approach. Jerry Jeudy was one of the top wide receivers coming out of the draft, and for whatever reason, it just didn't really seem to work in Denver. But that is the right kind of risk to be taken for this team, which really needs to bolster its offense to complement its beastly D. Dallas Cowboys, C-. With the contracts that they had to and still have to negotiate, it isn't a shocker that the Cowboys weren't a huge spender this offseason. But still, we would have really liked to see something a little more impressive than simply bringing Ezekiel Elliott into the fold. Now that said, I do like them rearming in the trenches in the draft by snagging Tyler Guyton, Marshawn Kneeland, and Cooper Beebe with their first 3 picks. Denver Broncos, D. I get that they desperately wanted to turn the page from the Russell Wilson era, but I don't know that drafting Bo Nix and acquiring Zach Wilson was the way to do it. They also had a significant loss on the defensive side of the ball in Justin Simmons. Detroit Lions, B+. The Lions had a very solid offseason. They offset a couple of key losses like CJ Gardner-Johnson and Jonah Jackson, and then some with major upgrades by bringing in DJ Reader, Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport, and Kevin Zeitler. Their draft was a masterclass, adding top talents like Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., and Giovanni Manu. They also locked up crucial pieces by re-signing Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell, meaning that coming off an NFC Championship appearance last year, their Super Bowl window is now wide open, and the Lions look ready to go roaring into 2024. Green Bay Packers, B-. The Green Bay Packers offseason will ultimately be remembered by how the decision to lock Jordan Love down long-term after so few games as the starter ends up panning out. But that isn't the only concern. The losses of Aaron Jones and Darnell Savage definitely hurt, though it will be exciting to see what Josh Jacobs can do in that offense. Houston Texans, A. With CJ Stroud looking like a full-blown star and still on his rookie deal, this was the time for the Texans to strike, and boy did they ever. Houston added several quality veteran players, including Daniil Hunter, Joe Mixon, Azeez Al-Shaair, and Danico Autry, and then knocked it out of the park by bringing in an offense-changing receiver in Stephon Diggs to join an already talented receiver room. What a beautiful offseason. Indianapolis Colts, C+. Credit to Indy for hanging on to a couple of key guys like Michael Pittman Jr., Kenny Moore II, and Julian Blackmon. But I would have liked to see a little more out of the Colts front office. You know, considering how frisky they were last year with a backup quarterback playing. Indy did, however, have a nice draft with Laiatu Latu coming off the edge and Adonai Mitchell at receiver. Jacksonville Jaguars, C-. Jacksonville's offseason was filled with questionable decisions, to say the very least. Namely, losing their top cornerback Darius Williams and letting Calvin Ridley go without an adequate succession plan. Gabe Davis is a nice piece, but he isn't Ridley. This could be a rough year in Duval. Kansas City Chiefs, A+. What's the saying? The rich get richer? Yeah, well, Kansas City handled their number one objective by retaining Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. And they made a couple of great swings at wide receiver with Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy to pair up alongside Rashee Rice. Las Vegas Raiders, B. The Raiders made a splash by signing Christian Wilkins to bolster their defense, and they had a pretty solid draft, adding talent like Brock Bowers. But they still got some questions, particularly at quarterback. Yeah, I don't know that Gardner Minshew is going to be the answer there. Los Angeles Chargers, A. The Chargers were in major need of a culture change, and by securing Jim Harbaugh as their new head coach, well, they will sure get one. The loss of Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler hurts, but both were aging and injury-prone. This team will have a completely different look and feel in 2024, so yeah, it makes sense to get some fresh blood in there. Los Angeles Rams, B+. The loss of Aaron Donald definitely hurts, but there's not much you can really do when a guy is really ready to retire. That said, the Rams did well to address the hole that he leaves on the defensive line using their first-round selection since 2016 in order to take talented pass rusher Jared Verse. Also, if he stays healthy, Tre'Davious White and Darius Williams at corner could turn Los Angeles into one of the top defensive units in the league. Miami Dolphins, C+. The Dolphins offseason was like a roller coaster. They said goodbye to some of their cornerstone players like Robert Hunt and Christian Wilkins. But they didn't just sit back and lick their wounds. They went out and brought in Jordan Poyer and Jonnu Smith. But we didn't really expect much out of them this offseason, as they were kind of hamstrung with how much money they have tied up in their talented but costly wide receivers. Minnesota Vikings, C-. The Vikings offseason was headlined by parting ways with Kirk Cousins, a move that is bound to turn some heads, especially when you turn around and take J.J. McCarthy as high in the draft as they did. Minnesota also lost Daniil Hunter, which, yeah, that definitely hurts. New England Patriots, C. The Patriots dropped a bombshell this offseason by moving on from Bill Belichick, marking the end of an era. It's a brave new world in New England, and they are focused on rebuilding from the ground up, starting at the quarterback position. Major win parting ways with Mac Jones, as he seemed to just be a drain on the entire team. But we don't have a ton of confidence in the Drake May era in New England. New Orleans Saints, A. The New Orleans Saints had a very busy offseason, making key moves that could help them remain competitive in a wide-open NFC South. Chase Young was a high-upside acquisition, and we love the decision to extend Tyrann Mathieu, who should serve as a great mentor for Kool-Aid McKinstry, an exciting draft day selection. Elias Fuaga, their top pick, is expected to step in and contribute immediately on the offensive line. New York Giants, B+. The Giants saw what the Bears did to kickstart a rebuild and followed suit by fleecing the Panthers for edge rusher Brian Burns. This move move instantly upgrades their pass rush and transforms their defense as a whole. The Malik Neighbors pick was also a great move to help mitigate some of the question marks that they have under center and the fallout of the ill-fated Daniel Jones extension. New York Jets, B. For the Jets, the focus this offseason was pretty dang clear: protect the quarterback. And they went out and did just that by making significant upgrades to their offensive line, signing veterans Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, and John Simpson. With these new faces in the trenches, the Jets are hoping to keep Aaron Rodgers on the field for more than a handful of plays this year. Philadelphia Eagles, B+. The Eagles were wise to retool their defensive unit after the collapse in the second half of last year, bringing in CJ Gardner-Johnson and Bryce Huff, both of whom should immediately improve their secondary and pass rush respectively. They were also very strategic in the draft, selecting Quinton Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two players who are expected to make an immediate impact. Pittsburgh Steelers, A. The Steelers took a big swing this offseason by trading for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, taking a two-pronged approach at solving thetheir quarterback problems. They also had a huge win on the defensive side of the ball, poaching talented linebacker Patrick Queen from the rival Ravens. San Francisco 49ers, C-. Yeah, it hasn't been a great offseason for the 49ers, who have been in a cold war with their top wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, and they also lost a couple of key defensive players in Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw. All in all, not a great look for the 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks, B+. Seattle's decision to part ways with Pete Carroll was a bit of a shocker, but bringing in Mike Macdonald, they've managed to secure one of the sharpest defensive minds in the game. And yeah, I guess it did seem like Carroll's voice was getting a bit stale. The Seahawks also made smart moves in the draft, focusing on the trenches with the selection of Byron Murphy II and Christian Haynes. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, B+. With the way this Bucs team is built, it'll go as far as the recently re-signed Baker Mayfield can take them. It's also worth noting that retaining Mike Evans and Levante David was huge. We'll need to see what they can get out of Randy Gregory and Bryce Hall, who were brought in to replace a couple of key departures in Shaq Barrett and Carlton Davis. Tennessee Titans, C-. I'm not sure what the Titans are doing parting ways with one of the best coaches in the game in Mike Vrabel, but I'll admit that I do like them investing in the front lines with J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat. Washington Commanders, A. There is some excitement building in the nation's capital with the Commanders' impressive draft class, headlined by selecting quarterback Jaden Daniels with the number 2 overall pick. The team also made a couple of nice veteran signings on the offensive side of the ball with tight end Zach Ertz and running back Austin Eckler. But how do you think your favorite NFL team did during the 2024 offseason? What do you think we got right? What do you think we were off on? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, well, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.